Hey guys, welcome to the TEPS podcast, or as we used to call it, the Everything Paranormal Show. Guys, welcome to tonight's episode. You're going to want to stick around. We got some awesome stuff we're going to be covering. One, we're definitely be covering the topic of intuition. This is very important, just in general in life. This covers anybody out there, not just people in the world of paranormal, but it also plays a role in the world of paranormal as well. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to be talking about some UFO stuff. So I see you. I see you. Thanks for popping in there.
Merry Christmas.
Guys, we are going to be covering some UFO stuff as well because we have had a ton of UAP sightings. Stacey pointed this out to me before the show. And who knows? Maybe we even talk about some black-eyed kids or something. We'll figure it out. We're definitely going to talk about these two main subjects for sure. But guys, how are you? And of course, joining me tonight is my co-host and now longtime friend, I would say, Stacey Tallitsch.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm having fun. It's already Thursday. Him and I we get together before the show and talk about some cool stuff, and we've been talking about some cool finance stuff. So exciting times, man. So I hope you guys are going to have a great Christmas. I see you. I hope you're going to have a great Merry Christmas. It says, oh yeah, I saw a video, car-sized ones over New Jersey.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, and we will get into that for sure. Other than that, guys, news. Let's talk about some news real quick. I am going to be on a so you guys know we have Paranormal Underground Magazine as our sponsor up here. If you don't know what it is a digital magazine that comes to your email once a month at the beginning of the month. It's a great magazine. It's going to give you all kinds of cool articles. The UFO stuff we're going to talk about, some of the different topics we talk about is from that. We react to some of those things. Mm-hmm. They also have a podcast, guys, and I'm going to be on that podcast. I'm getting interviewed by Cheryl and Chuck and oh man, what's the other girl? I'm sorry. I'm blanking out on the other woman's name. But those three have been doing it for a long time. They have a great podcast, and I believe it's audio only, though. I'm not sure exactly where it distributes. I'm hoping Spotify and all that stuff. I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it here, guys. But
do they have swag?
I'm going to be on their podcast. We're recording Monday the 16th.
Do they have swag like T-shirts and stuff? They should.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know if they have merchandising. I never really thought about it. I haven't been to their website in a while.
Because this
Ghosted magazine.
Yeah, they got swag. They had a really cool thing on the front. I didn't buy it because I don't even subscribe to the magazine, but I saw the skull and the things. I'm like, oh, I want one of those, and bought it. But
dude, I have the coolest. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but the company is fucking great right now. It's all over. It's been all over social media here lately, or it was, especially with Halloween. But the company's called Demons Behind Me.
Oh, yeah?
And they have these flannels. Now, they have other merchandise, but these flannels are fucking, they're really nice, too. They're not like necessarily full-on lumberjack type flannels. The patterns are a little more cool. Like, they're a little more modern. They're great for ghosts. I've been wearing them a lot, but they're almost like have a little bit of that North Face thing because like on the right shoulder, on the back up to the upper back, there's like a little Demons Behind Me skull logo. It's pretty badass. And then they got like the quality of the shirt. They got the button down collars for flannel. Like they're really comfortable. They're nice. They're like $50, like with the promo code and stuff. But like so worth it, man. I've got two. I got a purple and black flannel, and I got black and purple, and then I got like black and red. And now I've got this all black one with a huge logo that's going to be on the back. Jason, what's going on? Jason's in the chat. What's going on, brother? Jason is actually one of our newest members of the team.
Oh, nice.
So he is going to be in some future season 2 episodes as we've been filming season 2. So I'm excited to have him on board. He's been hanging out with me as well. Actually, we went to the brewery the other night together. Pretty good dude so far, man. I'm excited to have him on the team. So he's in the chat. We'll hopefully get him on the show soon too. But yeah, man, Demons Behind Me. If you like any kind of flannels, but I got the one coming. It's like a black button down long sleeve shirt, but it's got like a big Demons Behind Me logo on the back of it. It's really cool, man. I love it. So I'm excited. I can't wait. That's supposed to show up in the mail anytime. So in fact, I'm surprised it hasn't by now. They were like really good customer service wise. They send me like they even include usually some bracelets in the last few times. I mean, really cool company. And like when one of the orders was messed up, the second order was messed up, the black and red one. It was like they were just like they were on it. They were just like, well, hey, if you pay for shipping, because it was kind of like my mistake in a way. It's like I accidentally picked store pickup, which I guess there's a store pickup like down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm not in Florida. So,
why they're wearing flannel in Florida?
Well, that's just where one of the shops, like they have a shop that you can pick up their shirts at.
Okay.
And so I accidentally sent it there somehow through whatever. And so when I told them, because they were like, oh, your shit's ready to pick up. I'm like, huh? What? Because I got a notification. I'm like, no, I want my shirt. And I told them, I was like, well, I wanted to film in it. It was supposed to be like when we did an investigation I had an upcoming public investigation on Thursday. Well, he was like, he sent me an invoice just for the shipping. He's like, well, hey, if you just pay for the shipping, well, he actually upped it to like priority shipping so I could get it by Thursday. So it was like,
nice.
It was really cool. You know what I mean? Like they're really cool folks. So shout out to Demons Behind Me, guys. Go check out their merchandise. I'm telling you, the hats, the shirts, like all the stuff they got is really cool. Like it's cool ghost hunting gear, like apparel. I can't.
Well, you need to tell Paranormal Underground they need to, step up their game if they don't have any swag, because
I don't know. Like I said, we'll have to check out their website soon. But all right, guys, let's get into it. Without further ado, let's get into talking about. So remember, I got the upcoming podcast, and we'll also at the end we'll make sure that we know how to get a hold of me and Stacey, everything too. But guys, and also yes, TEPS investigates. We're filming. Filming's been underway, and we got some more locations hopefully coming up. But no matter what, by spring we're going to be releasing probably a ton of season 2. So and we're sort of doing a little different. We're not going to release them episode by episode for season 2, where we already been filming. We're going to bank a bunch, and I'm going to be editing over the winter, and then we're going to start releasing a lot of back-to-back stuff for season 2 as we tour and do season 3. So fun. I'm serious, man. I just can't. I've been really happy, and like I said, the new team members we got, I'm excited. So anyways, all right, so let's talk about intuition. And I think it's important that people know, again, for those of you that if you're not familiar with me or Stacey, both of us have our individual backgrounds, but we've been involved in this type of stuff for years. Okay. So believe me when I say we're gonna give you good advice, good knowledge, and you can do with it what you will. But intuition. So first of all, I think let's start out with just the definition of what intuition is. And according to the dictionary, there's really kind of 2 overall meanings: is that it's the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. Okay. Now, or you could also say similar definition is another alternate definition that they say is a thing that one knows or considers likely from instinctive feeling rather than conscious reasoning. Okay. So this is your technical definitions. Now we're going to get into maybe like, where does that come from? How does that play? And can you develop it and all these things? So Stacey, I'm going to give you first crack at this. What do you want to say about intuition?
Well, intuition is a natural thing. We, since birth, have had a very strong intuition, and it is only through social upbringing is it phased out, because the reasons and the reasoning that we are taught in society and in schools discounts intuition at every turn. And because of that, when you start receiving information on an intuitive level, the first thing you do is doubt. The first thing you do is dump it, because that is what your brain literally has trained itself to do. The ego or the id has trained the intuition to take a back seat. And because of that, we don't have a loud intuition in the forefront. It is a whisper. It's a gut feeling. It's a cold chill up the spine or hair on the back of your neck. That kind of thing is all that we really in society have left because we beat it out of us through conditioning.
Right.
That
And,
doesn't mean
and some of that conditioning, right? Like
yeah.
I think of it like, I mean, think about when we were going to school, all the drills we had to learn, all like stop, drop, and roll, all these things that we had to learn, like these procedures that were trying to keep us safe.
Mhm.
You know, when we were kids, we were riding around on the back of four wheelers with BB guns, whatever. You know what I mean? But
Well,
like
that's
when you,
Gen
but when
Xers
you,
were doing all that.
right. But when you go to school, and even as you become adults later on, we had, and even to this day, everything's built so much with safety and procedures that it's like half the time when something happens, instead of just listening to your intuition and getting out of safety or whatever, it's like, maybe what did I learn? What was the procedures? Stop,
Right.
drop, and roll, whatever, pull, pin, pass, whatever. I don't know the different things. They always come up with all these things, but anyways, that's what I think
Yeah.
of when they drill it out of us.
A lot of the conditioning that we have is a roadblock to actually listening to intuition. And it's really not that difficult if you know what you're listening to or for and understand that there's a time limit to your intuition. They've the military and in the remote viewing program, the Project Stargate that they ran, they actually scientists timed how fast intuition goes as opposed to when the conscious mind starts to kick in or the creative mind starts to kick in and start messing around with it to give an answer that it wants to give instead. And it really starts getting interpretive and all kinds of weird after that because your creative mind wants to be the one that wins the day when your intuition is the one that's actually giving you raw data. And listening to the raw data is within the first 3 seconds. You walk into a room, the impression that you get when you first walk into a room is real data. After you hit second 4, your creative mind develop ideas of what's going on. Your eyes will start to matrix and see faces and shadows and all kinds of other stuff because that's what it's expecting to see, expecting to be. But the raw information in that first 3 seconds is the real information. And that's what you should pay attention to and take to heart as opposed to on second 4, 5, and 6. And
Right.
at that point, you say it out loud, because a lot of times you don't get everything all at once bundled up as far as the data is concerned. So you just start rattling off what you perceived as quickly as possible because that information may prove valid 10 minutes later, and if you're recording, that's perfect. You have documented proof that what you were sensing and what you were seeing and feeling was real in that first 3 seconds, even though that it didn't actually manifest for another 10 minutes.
This some of what you're describing with intuition and things. This reminds me of part of another procedure that is, very much what you're saying. It almost seems like it's out of a course that I took about remote viewing.
Yeah. Well, that's
Because
all remote viewing is.
it seems like this is part of like remote viewing when you talk about
Yeah. Well, that's all the remote viewing is. It's resetting that 3-second window over and over and over again when you want to target something and you break it down into its parts and then put it all together like a jigsaw puzzle from the, pieces of its parts.
I just
And
wanted to plug in some big picture for people. So when we're talking about intuition, and then some people want about remote viewing and all this other stuff, how this kind of ties in, because some of you guys out there, like I said, we want to make sure we talk about the big picture, right? So, but I was just like remembering your course because I took the remote viewing course. I'm like trying to remember, like, and I was like, man, this is just like when you were talking about how it is when you're experiencing that download.
Right. Well, this is where mediums actually, whether they're good or they're bad, is when they get the information that they're getting, how long they hold on to it before they interpret it. because as soon as they get into that 5-6 second window and their interpretation of what the information is, it literally turns to junk. And they start pulling stuff out of their own creative consciousness of what something is or isn't. And they use a lot of symbology and things like, well, I saw a frog and it was walking down the street holding a beer. And what that actually means is that it's going to rain next Tuesday, things like that. And you have to get past the symbolism on a lot of that when you're dealing with mediums. And it's all interpretive symbology on that. When they're giving you raw information right off the bat, then they're actually doing it well.
Right. And one of the things, like when we've been having some team meetings here with the new team members and stuff, I was talking about intuition, because that's something important to me. Like when I have a team, one thing I like to do is I like to develop people's characters. You know what I mean? Like I don't look at it as like an ego trip, like, oh, I'm the boss and you guys are just the lackeys or whatever. I look at it as a team effort, but also like I try to be a mentor role where it's like, what can we work on developing? What can we work on to just become, all of us, even together, better and better investigators? So it's like, it's a development program too. You know what I mean? Like they start off as interns and sort of speak, and then become investigators and become lead investigators and become, but one thing I talk about too is with intuition. Now, the way I kind of talk about how in sort of an easy way to work on developing it is when we go to investigations and you get those feelings, those initial, like when you start having like an intuitive feeling about something, I tell them, remember that at that moment, remember it. Okay. Now they may not be able to say it out loud all the time, because again, when you're during an investigation, maybe we just can't always say everybody spouting out feelings all the time. But remember it at that moment. Remember it if you got to write it down, whatever. And then when you find out, associate that. So if you walked in and you felt like initially like, oh man, like this feeling here, I feel like something bad, I feel like whatever, something negative. Well, if it turns out we talked to something negative or whatever, but try to associate some of those things when you do find out some results as well. And that kind of helps train that intuition with the associated feelings once you validate those.
Right. Use all of your senses as a tool. Whether you smell something, you taste something, you hear something. I mean, you can actually have, even though your mouth is closed, you can start tasting mint or tasting rose petals, different things like that, out of nowhere. It's like, I taste soap. Why is soap as all of a sudden, that's information. You're not actually tasting soap. It's the information that you're receiving is associated with the taste of soap. And that is data. That's a communication. And if you're, in an area that, used it like a hospital, you're going to get a lot of these senses coming through, because that is pervasive during any time you're in a hospital. You get chemical smells, whether it be,
Right.
Clean or iodine or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it like they're like, I think they talk about the 5 clairvoyance.
Yeah, they're all associated with the different senses.
Right. And I think one of them was like where you can taste or smell things without actually picking them up or whatever, like, or tasting food without actually picking it up.
Right.
So I think like that's what kind of reminds me of, is like sort of that, because even with intuition and clairvoyance is almost, they go real hand in hand, really.
Right. Well, everybody has a dominant sense that they have. Most people, 80% of the population, is their vision. Some people, it's auditory. These are musicians or poets or things like that. The hearing is their most sensitive of the senses. Some are smell, some are taste. Most of the taste is what they call kinetic. Everything is based off your stomach. You ever been around somebody who tries giving you directions and they you turn at the McDonald's and then you'd go down the street and hit the Arby's and make a left. Everything is based off of food. You know, their whole life is food. That's
Right.
a kinetic.
Yeah,
So
and ICU just said that she smells perfume in her house. Her house was built in the 60s, but she smells perfume in the house sometimes.
yeah, well, it probably was an old woman who lived in the house before, and is still kind of walking through every now and again. Either that or was a whorehouse.
It's like- yeah, or it's like if you have a husband, I don't know, you might. No, I'm just kidding. Thunder rolls, strange new perfume blows. No,
House of ill repute.
no, I would say though, like even in that situation, I would say like whenever if you're walking on the house and all of a sudden you smell that smell, what's the first few things in those few like Stacey was saying, almost like that 3-second window? Like, what's the first things that come to your mind? Because that may be the intuition that could, and you may receive that almost clairvoyance, whether it's a premonition or whatever it is, whether future, past, present.
A lot of people smell smoke, and it's either cigarette, pipe, or cigar, and you can tell the difference between the kinds of tobacco just by paying attention to it, and that is a lot of information, critical information. A lot of times when you're doing an investigation, if you're smelling a pipe, that puts it in a pretty tight window of the time period you're looking at, because it wasn't a very popular thing for a long time.
Right. She said a beloved old grandma.
Yeah. They linger. They like to wander through.
Right. And that's the thing is like if that smell invokes something, because smell can be one of the greatest things too. People don't realize how powerful smell actually is.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes like it wasn't even that long ago. I can't even remember. I was somewhere and I walk in, I think it was somebody's house, and I walked in their house and there was just this particular, I can't describe the smell, but it's just like this particular smell that when it hit me, I'm like, it took me right back to one of my old relatives' house, because their house always smelled like that smell. So just that specific, and it's not something I smell in a lot of houses, but that specific smell locked me in, and I was just like, boom, and I had some vivid memories that popped up, and it unlocked some shit way in the back of my file cabinet section. I was like, oh damn,
Music does that for me, like an old song from high school that comes up, and same thing, flashback, 30 years, actually more closer to 40 years now, but flashback, and it's like I was there all over again.
I graduated high school like 10 years ago.
Okay, dude.
We're gonna go with that. Shut up. My hair's not gray.
Yeah.
I mean,
but music is also auditory, is a very strong thing, just like the smell.
Oh yeah.
And it can trigger memories that you did or did not want based off of what music was playing when something was going on. Like if you're at a concert or at a dance or in the backseat of a Camaro, then it's the music that's playing is things that you remember. A lot of times screaming, "Damn you, Pat Benatar!" But
oh man, yes. But no, that's cool. So I think developing your intuition. Now, I think it's important for paranormal investigators because some people are like, I don't want to be a psychic. I don't want to be it's not about being like that type of, because no offense, I know some of you I'm going to take shit for this when I say this, dude. And Stacey, you maybe, but I kind of look at psychics as almost like a circus attraction. God damn, I'm going to take heat from this. Sorry, my psychic friends, but it's more of like, to me, it always seems to be a little more of an attraction and a little more of like a paid service, and sometimes can get looked down upon by people, and they like, oh, you're a con artist, whatever. And I'm not saying that they are. I'm not going to debate. I'm not trying to have that debate about psychics. My point, what I'm getting to, is that intuition, it's not so much about that, but it's something, it's a tool as an investigator. If you at least develop it as you go to each investigation, you get better and better. This will help to aid in your investigation because it helps you to, one, as soon as you go to places, you can start to feel whether this is a positive environment or negative environment. You can start to feel where the paranormal is. You can walk into rooms or know which part of the houses to go to. These are all things that really help when you develop and start to enhance your intuition.
Yeah, which is really an extension of listening skills, because you're listening to the information as it comes
Right.
rather than passing judgment on it. You're listening and paying attention and then acting upon it, whether it's saying it out loud, what it is that you're experiencing, what the information is. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to interpret it. You just have to acknowledge it. And the brain goes, oh, hey, you thought that was important, so I'll actually give you some more of that.
Right.
And it actually becomes stronger and more prominent when your brain actually recognizes this is valid and important information.
So let me point out a quick example for people too. Why this is important as an investigator also. So there is some situations, and this is personal experience. There are some situations where if you are just an investigator that only looks at surface and you don't listen to your intuition or don't know how to. So, for example, there's a location, people are getting scratched at. Okay. So, most investigators initially are going to say, people are getting scratched. There's a negative spirit here or a demon. Oh, and they don't listen. They don't understand. They don't read the room, so to speak. Right.
Right.
And somebody like myself, for example, if you develop your intuition enough, you can go into a home and say, there's nothing negative here. So if people are getting scratched, the other side of the coin is they don't realize that ghosts do not communicate exactly the way we think that they might communicate. They can scratch us, but it doesn't mean they're trying to harm us. They're trying to get our attention. That might be the only way they know how to physically interact with us, unfortunately. So just because you receive things that are perceived as negative on a surface level, sometimes your intuition can help. Also, with the flip side of that, real quick, you can go into a negative situation and negative spirits will disguise themselves as positive spirits. So if you go into a situation and you're like, I'm not feeling this, there's something wrong here. And then you get these ghosts or like a little kid coming on the thing. Now you have the red flag because of, again, your intuition. So I wanted to point those out as those inverse, how it can help you.
Right. And you have to understand too, intuition isn't a biological thing. It is a spiritual thing.
Right.
It is, you are a spirit in a meat suit. In that, spirits that aren't sporting a meat suit, they're pure intuition. They don't have the ego or the organism survival mode that we have, because the physical being wants to stay alive. Although, it a lot of times will contradict itself in that way. And that's where psychologists come in and there's malfunctions and all that. But on the intuitive level, you are a spiritual being, and that communication is streaming live to all the other spirits that may be in the room, and act as a beacon to other spirits to come or send them away, because it is direct communication, literally from the soul to the ethereal world.
ICU says astral being having a human experience.
Yes. That's what we are.
Right. Well, and I've talked about it too, how no matter which way you take things, like you can just take the overall arching thing like that, or you can like look at it as, what if there's a next level, like maybe a heaven or something. Like if you wanted to, I'm not necessarily saying Christian route, but you could look at it there's a lot of different scripts that talk about the spirit, the soul, and the body. And, the spirit body is what I believe connects us to this earthly network, like the spiritual network.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we pass on, we get a new spirit body to the new network, another network. So yeah, but either way, it's all part of a big spiritual network that we're plugged into. No matter what, no matter how you look at it, whether you want to put a religion behind it or not, we seem to be all part of this, spiritual network.
Yeah. Well, I mean, scientists are coming in the realm of quantum physics. They're backtracking a lot of their hate.
Damn it. You just reminded me of something. Oh man, this is why I was hoping you were available last week. That just reminded me, because there was an article that I got to do more research. I just can't pull it up right now.
Okay.
But it was like a glimpse article, and I just want to mention it. But it was like, and I wanted us to dive into it because I knew it was something right up your alley. And it was going to be they had come out, I think they were coming out with a study where I think they had maybe like a breakthrough, maybe not a breakthrough, but like something happened where they had two people that actually connected in their dreams. Like,
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess they just had this thing where it was like they just confirmed like a case where it was like literally they had some people and like they both were able to effectively communicate, or however. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it because I want us to both dig deeper and see what they say on their side, the facts or whatever on their side.
Yeah,
But,
lucid dreaming, they have a lot of experiments going on with that. The lucid dreaming, where you're conscious, you're semi-conscious in your dream, while at the same time you're ethereal.
Right. Right. Well, and then again, that's part of that spiritual network, I think. So I mean, like, I don't know. I definitely, that you reminded me of like why I was hoping you were gonna, and I almost was gonna cover it by myself last week, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to. I want to save that for Stacey, and then I forgot this week, but that's okay because we are. So, is there anything else you want to kind of follow up on intuition? Any last thoughts that you have on it that you want to pass on?
Well, other than I teach you how to do it through remote viewing. I mean, this is government created program that you've already paid for with your tax dollars that basically turned soldiers who were as psychic as a rock and made them more accurate than Nostradamus. And they used to spy on the Russians when the Cold War was going on.
Right. Well, I was going to say, I would tell people too, if they're watching, like, and this isn't necessarily like a plug, but you should take Stacey's courses. Like he teaches on Udemy, however you want to pronounce it. But just look up Udemy, Udemy, and look up, you can just type in Stacey Tallitsch and you'll get all of his courses. He has a ton of courses, but like his remote viewing course, I would say it's a good place to start because he has a lot of other great courses, but that remote viewing course, it helps. Like that helped me, even though I don't practice remote viewing. The lessons in it and what he teaches you about the mental side of things, and like he talked about tonight, intuition and stuff like that, that helped me out a lot, because I apply those things even though I'm not consciously going and sitting down and doing remote viewing sessions. I'm still applying a lot of principles from that class, and it definitely, I enjoyed that. So that's why I tell people, go take his class. He's got a lot of sales. He'll get on his list because he'll send you promo codes a lot of times, and I'm telling you, it's worth it.
Well, I'm all about practical application. A lot of people, when they start teaching you things that are spiritual, they don't actually teach you the practical side of it. What they do is they sit back like a guru and say, you just got to like connect, man. You connect, you can feel it and get the vibe and get in there and you're in the zone. And they start getting all weird hippie on how to do certain. And at the end, you're like, what? I don't understand any of that. I actually go through, and the exercises themselves, you will feel it. You will start to understand it. And
Right.
once that clicks in the actual exercise, you will get confirmation for it, positive affirmation that this equals this. You nailed it, and then you move on to the next. And it's
Right.
a building of a trust with you, yourself, and your intuition.
All right. Well, guys, so go check out his courses. Let's move on to our next segment here, which may only be the last segment we talk about, which is fine. Nobody says we have to do 3. But guys, let's get into this. So we're going to get into this particular one right here. The Pentagon logs hundreds of new UFO reports. The Pentagon has received hundreds of new UFO reports, but there is still no evidence of extraterrestrial activity. According to the story by CNN, the recently released annual report from the Pentagon in collaboration with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence highlights 757 new sightings between May of 23 and June of 24. These additions bring the total number of unidentified UAP reports to 1,652. Reports of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, particularly, I don't know why they just couldn't say UAP at that point again, but particularly near national security sites, must be treated seriously and investigated with scientific rigor by the U.S. government, says John Kozlowski, a director of the all-domain UAP anomaly resolution office. God dang it, I don't know why I'm having trouble with that. The surge in reports reflects the government's increasing efforts to document, track, and study UAPs, especially those spotted near sensitive locations such as military bases, national security forces, and blah, blah, blah. So they're just talking about, they just go into that. The development of it emphasizes acknowledgement of the significance of UAPs as resolved to investigate them thoroughly. However, the absence of evidence leaves things unanswered. Okay, so basically, the gist of everything is a lot more sightings over strategic areas.
Yeah.
Take it away, Stacey.
Well, one of the theories, I haven't been doing any remote viewing on any of this stuff of late. I did a bunch of them back, years ago, just to find out, WTF,
Right.
what these things were, and found that more than half of the ones that were photographed and you could see, and I remote viewed those were man-made. They were military projects that they haven't actually released to the public yet. What's going on now is a little bit more suspicious because they're orbs. They're not saucers. They're not aerodynamic in any way. And they're moving at incredible speeds and literally coming from space. There've been videos taken what looks like a meteor that is breaking up. It has all of these clumps with the tails, and they're comet, like literally like they're breaking up rocks. And then they come out and then they just hover as orbs, in a formation, like, and depending on your angle, the formation is either a triangle or a pyramid or whatever, but they're, coming out of the sky like it's like a meteor, and then just hanging out. And that's not military. That's something else.
Maybe.
And well,
I mean, let me play devil's advocate. What about this? Let me just throw out a possible theory. What if we developed, because the whole thing nowadays has been drone technology. Now, what if we develop these like fucking drones that operate in space and can come into the atmosphere? And of course, they look like meteors. They come in and then they can like hover and do these things. I'm just throwing that out there because drone technology has been like massive, and there has been really nothing new in the world of drones much other than just becoming suicide bombs.
Yeah. Well, no, if you've seen the cluster drones that they're doing in China, they're doing light shows where they look like giant animated cartoons with literally thousands of tiny drones that are working in clusters. They're working in like each drone is a pixel.
Right.
And it's really, really cool. And if that was turned against in a war, that would be fucking scary as hell.
Oh yeah, if
You
every
know?
single one had a grenade on it or something, or like a dirty bomb or something. I mean,
Yeah, can you imagine they're all lit up like Mickey Mouse, and it's like Mickey Mouse walking across the field, and they're all drones with bombs on them? You know, that would psychologically, that would mess a lot of people up.
yeah,
But what we're seeing here is what looks like surveillance. And why I say that is because back in the late 90s, 97, 98, uh, sci-fi the Sci-Fi Channel used to have this promo that they would run in between the different shows, where it would be like this helicopter was flying around New York, and they spotted a UFO, a saucer. It was kind of like hidden a little bit behind one of the twin towers. And then as people were like approaching, go, "Hey, what is that? Look at that!" It zipped past them at like the speed of light, and had
right,
a trail behind it and everything, and it freaked everybody out in the helicopter. Um, what it looks like, because the Twin Towers, 9/11, it looks like a Mothman scenario where these things are going to areas where massive casualty is is about to take place. Like
right.
they know something in the timeline is happening on that location, and they happen to be around the military bases, mostly in London and around England, when we're on the precipice of World War III. What is happening? Are they going to locations to stop said event? Or are they going there as sightseeing, saying, see, this is before, you should see it after, that kind of thing.
Well, and here's another theory. This is, and in fact, even Tucker Carlson brings this up a lot, and that is a lot of these UFOs and things like that are actually like angels and stuff, like angels and demons, that type of thing. That these are spiritual creatures, and
Yeah.
that maybe what if we're seeing, like you're describing, is guardian angels or a form of guardian angels that are dispersing among, like you said, all these World War III type places that could possibly happen, and they're getting ready to intervene if some bullshit, or they are intervening in a psychological way or whatever. I don't know,
Mhm.
but maybe they know it's like, hey, we're not going to let this shit happen, and it could be on a spiritual level. So that's another theory.
Well, the military does know they have the capability of shutting down our nuclear weapons. They have had bases, nuclear bases, completely shut down. They've done tests where they've had nuclear warheads on missiles, and a UFO, and this is well documented. A UFO came up, followed the missile up, shot a beam at the missile, and made the uranium on board turn to lead. It
Hmm.
literally sucked all of the radioactive material on the fly in a few seconds off the missile.
Hmm.
So they have the ability to do that. There was an accident in the early 90s where France actually it was a nuclear accident with one of their missiles out at sea. And UFOs came to that location, and literally it was going to create basically a Fukushima kind of radioactive cloud. They
Right.
came into the cloud and sucked up all of the radiation like a vacuum cleaner and then flew away.
Hmm.
And it would be made completely inert. So
Oh,
they know they can do this. The military knows the UFOs can do this.
right.
So, are they here to prevent a war, or are they, what's going on with that?
I don't know. We got two kind of comments I want to hit on. ICU says, okay, so definitely not Project Bluebeam.
You
And
know what that
then,
is?
do I know what it is?
Yes.
No.
Project Bluebeam was a deathbed confession from Werner von Braun. Uh,
Okay.
he told his secretary that at some point they're going to fake a alien invasion, and nobody's going to be able to tell the
Okay.
difference because this is back in the 70s.
I've heard of this. I just didn't know. Like, okay, Bluebeam. Yeah, I've heard of this. But
Yeah,
anyway, go
he
ahead.
he said it was called Project Bluebeam, and it's a plan that they've already had in place since the 70s. If basically the military industrial complex or the deep state started to lose control, they
Right.
would use it as a way to regain control and centralize their power again.
Well, I asked you before the show if this was a distraction, like if it was like an op thing. So
Yeah. Well,
that's why,
very
because
well
I know
could
that
be.
that's always been in the back of my head. But yeah, and I want to bring up Paul Scott, who says, "Hi, Paul. Again, thanks for commenting in the show." But he says, "Could the use of time-driven craft result in more paranormal activity, where someone in 1824 is seeing through a rip in time to us in 2024, and we both think the other is a ghost?"
It all depends whether it's interacting with you or not. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't know. I think if it was two sides of the fence that were alive, I think the communication may be a little different. And plus I've been out doing investigations for almost 30 years. I've gone to so many locations. And when you're there on locations and you're there all the time, you develop intuition, you get feelings, you see similar evidence all the time. And I don't get that feeling like we're peering into like some other dimension or something. Like I feel like it is something beyond the veil. I do feel like it's something like that and something spiritual in that sense of like the afterlife type stuff. So that's just my feeling for sure. Again, obviously we don't know for sure. That's my opinion anyways. Stacey, you want to add anything on that?
well, you can have situations that are like that, of course. So you can't. There's no one size fits all. When you're doing an investigation, you're trying to ferret out what is actually taking place, rather than trying to get it, a round peg in a square hole. So on that front, you could have some of that going on, but you'll start to pick up on it because the people who are you're communicating with from the other side, from 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, they are completely unaware of anything that is pop culture or modern. What you're experiencing and what you're dealing with.
Right.
You know,
Well,
because
go ahead. Finish
well,
what you're saying.
in 1824, Thomas Jefferson was still alive. Think about the things that he thought, believed about the future, or what the world was like, as opposed to what we understand it to be. And that communication bridge, or that knowledge, is going to be apparent.
Yeah. And also too, I would say Paul Scott, like, and he also said that he has a lot of paranormal iteration over his lifetime in 77 to 78. Also had an alien encounter as a child, is why I asked. But I would also say too, if you one thing that you can also look back on is and you may want to do some reading and look into the even Sumerian culture.
Mhm.
When you get back to the Sumerians, this is some of the very first actual written language, like documented. Now we had cave paintings before that, but they were symbols. They weren't. It's hard to interpret them sometimes.
Mhm.
Whereas with Sumerians, we actually was able to interpret the language and find out what they were saying. And the Sumerians talked a lot about ghosts and demons, like there was a distinguishment between ghosts and demons. And as a culture, they could actually see these ghosts and demons. Like a lot of people back then, thousands of years ago, could see the ghosts and demons. We don't have the sight anymore, hardly. But back
Mhm.
then, it was very common for everybody to see them everywhere they looked. There was ghosts and demons, and
Yeah.
they were engaging in battle. After that, they developed spells and rituals and rites to combat the ghosts and demons. And then, of course, that kind of got a little carried away. And then they developed black magic. That's where black
Mhm.
magic came from, because they were like, they started saying, well, we can start using this on our fellow persons. So, but anyways, but back then the point is like they saw things more clearly. So for us, we can look and go, well, it's so hard for us to interact with paranormal nowadays, so we might look at it through a different lens and say, well, maybe we're seeing like back into 1824, so to speak, like a time rip, and we're hearing voices from another time, um, things like that. But I would defer you to do some research and reading about some of the ancient cultures, because it wasn't just Sumerians. All the ancient cultures, the Romans even had ghost stories, but um, almost every culture around the world. It's crazy. But anyways,
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised on that front too. We went from being in caves, writing on cave walls, to in Sumeria having a fully fledged, developed written language with advanced geometry and mathematics. We went from literally eating bugs in caves to advanced mathematics literally overnight. And no one can explain how that happened or why that happened.
yeah. And when you look into these, Obeki, the ruins, and you look at some of these ancient ruins, that they cannot explain the technology of how they even move some of these stones,
Mm-hmm.
and the precision at which they're made. It just blows them away, and they still can't, you know, and they don't.
Replicate it.
Yeah, they can't replicate it, because they had like what a hard ass time just moving that one. It was like 100-ton statue or something. Like they had to specially build a semi with all this stuff, and it was just like insane what they had to do just for like something that wasn't even 10 times the size of. It was 10 times less or whatever than some of these other stones. So it's just crazy. But anyways, I brought the ancient stuff. We could have a whole show about ancient stuff. I've been studying. I've been diving deep into Sumerian culture, the ancient ghost stuff. I've really been diving deep in that lately. I just been breaking out the textbooks lately, and then like I actually have all the I actually have the actual Sumerian text, and I've been starting to read them for myself. So I'm pretty. I've been really into that lately. That's been kind of one of my latest, uh, second sort of, because I love, I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for you. I love research, and so, but this has just been something that's been striking my fancy here lately. But it does, looking at the past helps us with the future, and it gives us better understandings. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so Paul, when you have these questions and things like that, like just sometimes maybe get into some of these ancient things, um, and try not to get too much in the weeds with. There is some too, you might get some of the ancient alien stuff that's a little too speculative, but
Chariots of the gods.
there are some things that are really good text like just fact wise, and but it really helps to see it, because it just gives you a different perspective that ghost hunting is not a modern thing. I've often been asking people lately. I said, how long do you think ghost hunting has been around? And most people are like, I don't know, 1800s, maybe 1700s. Most people don't realize that the battle of ghosts and stuff's been around as long as it's been documented, since the Sumerians. They were out there. They had a ghost problem. Ghosts and demons. There was separate. They talked about them separately. They didn't just say there was evil spirits. They talked about the dead, but they were battling. They were battling that. They were ghost hunting. It was a common thing. Like every doorway, or like a lot of doorways, graveyards. They were like, it was freaking them out, man. They were having it out. They could see them. The society could see them back then. So, but yeah, that's but yeah, so do that. But guys, but we're gonna start wrapping up. If any of you guys watching have any last minute questions, try to get them in there. If you have any last minute questions or comments, I'm just gonna say, and I'll give Stacey a chance. So Stacey, where can people find you?
You can go to udemy.com, udemy.com. Just type in my name as you see it here.
I think I have a link in my stuff down below, by the way, too. But anyways,
yeah, and all my courses will pop up, and you can the prices on them. I have no control over that. Udemy controls the prices. So on some days you'll see it for $10, and other days it'll be like, $50. Don't buy it at $50, because the next day it'll be like $10. Yeah. If you buy one of my courses at the $10 rate, or at $12 or whatever, I will send you coupons twice a month you can get any of the other courses, and they're through that coupon. You can get any courses for like $10, and it lasts for 5 days. Each coupon does, so you can get whatever courses you want for that window, that 5-day window. But it's like I said, I focus on practical application, not philosophical hippy dippy stuff. So you can take what you know and actually apply it in life, whether it be remote viewing, whether it be hoodoo and conjure, whether it be cryptocurrency, survival, mediumship, all of that stuff. It's practical application to be used in real life.
And I think what's really cool is that with resources like Udemy and I think what's cool is that, like, think about it. 20 years ago, if you're a ghost hunter and you wanted to try to take you would have had to take a class somewhere. You'd have had to take a class like either at like a local type of convention place that might cost you $200-300, or you might have to go to the community college when they would have special electives and special classes or lectures. And so either you'd have to sit through just a lecture, which isn't really teaching you much. It's usually very generic. Or if you wanted to take a particular class on something like that, like, it's going to be a weird thing and you're going to spend a couple $100. And now you can take these quality classes that you're going to have somebody like Stacey teaching you these practical applications to these things and talking to you like a normal person. And you're going to pay like $10 or $12 or even 20, God forbid, $20 or something. I mean, but that's a small price in my mind for the level of quality and just the access of information compared to back in the day when we had to do everything with the library or like find specialty stuff. So
reinvent the wheel, discover something that, 100 other people discovered before you when they could have just told you the answer.
But yeah, it's cool. And as far as me, guys, you can find me on Paraflix, which is a streaming network that you can. It's the streaming platform. If you use my code TEPS25, you can get like a year for like under $30. I think I can't remember exactly what the discount is. I know it's like 25% off. That's why I think it's TEPS25. But I don't remember what their current rates are. That's why I say. But I believe for a year you can get it, or you can pay it by the month. But it's like $4 or $5 a month. So it's not much. But the great thing about Paraflix is like you get access to a ton of original shows like mine and other shows. And but yeah, in the name of my show on there is TEPS Investigates. We also used to have an original series called Para Explorers, and we have a couple short films on there. Excuse me. But and you can also find me here, of course. So if you haven't, like, subscribe, share. We need to keep growing the podcast. We don't get a lot of live members, but we do get a decent amount of replays at times. But guys, keep sharing that podcast with people, and it just helps pass information. Don't forget, I do have a podcast. Get that Paranormal Underground magazine. Go to paranormalunderground.net, I believe it is, and you'll get a free year. And I think even after that, you'll just get them for free. But the podcast, I know we're recording it the 16th, but keep an eye, look for it. I'll curate, and hopefully I'll be able to get a link to it wherever it is, and then I'll put it in my social media stuff. That way you guys can check it out. Other than that, guys, thank you all so much for showing up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and don't forget, we try to do this every Thursday around 9 p.m. Again, it's been a little weird with the holidays here lately, but we try to do it every Thursday. Kat, of course you show up at the end, girl. Where you been? So, but that's okay. I know you missed me. Don't forget, I was just saying, every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We do this 9 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. Now, I know, look, I will let you guys off the hook. I'll let you off the hook, Kat, because I know lately October was rough. We were doing some on Wednesdays. I had those public investigations. We've been kind of filming. And then November, I was out of town for a week. We had Thanksgiving. It was just been rough. So Thursdays have been rough. Yes. So So yes, he but anyways, Thursdays, guys. I thought I got a cat. Yeah. But guys, we are going to be back to doing a lot of regular Thursdays again. So Kat, I see you next Thursday. We should be good for next Thursday. Show up next Thursday, 9 p.m. guys. We'll see you. We'll see you then, guys. See ya.
Peace.